Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. I'm glad that you're here and you've chosen to take some time to hang out with me and Trey and Making Midwest. I'd love to hear in the chat two things: where you're from, because we seem to be represented across the country today, which is awesome, and also a little bit about your business. Tell me what type of work that you do or what type of work you want to do. You can be as brief or in depth as you want, but that'll help me kind of get a sense for what's going on here and what you guys are getting into. Still arranging my photos here. Perfect. So my name's Jay. Lately, I've been doing a few different projects. Namely, I've been working on a podcast called Creative Elements, where I talk to some pretty high profile creators about how they've made a living from their art and creativity. I talked to Seth Godin and James Clear, Vanessa Van Edwards, Kat Koch, some really, really cool people. And instead of just talking to them about their work itself, I dig a little bit deeper into how did you actually get to do that? Like, how did you actually get to spend all your time creating YouTube videos and blog posts and things like that? I've been building a platform called Freelancing School, which is a um, mostly content platform. I have a couple of courses, but a lot of articles about freelancing and making a living as a freelancer. I've worked with clients for the past several years through my business Unreal Collective, which is an accelerator program for mostly client-based businesses. And along the way, I've been making some courses for LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com in the product management and freelancing space. So congratulations on being here. It's 7:30 Eastern. I know we have some folks from Columbus, Ohio here, so it's late. Thanks for taking the time in the evening. Congratulations on caring enough to, try to improve yourself, improve your skills, feel more confident as a business owner, all of those things. It's just a good sign that you are making the effort to be here and to grow and improve. So we have a couple hours together here. Grab a pen, grab a drink if you are so inclined. I have a Newcastle here next to me that I'm going to shamelessly take a pull on every now and then. And let's dive in. Let's have some fun. Let's learn a little bit. I want this to be fairly interactive, and there's a couple times throughout the presentation where I will force you to talk to me at me or chat at me. But in the meantime, if you have questions as we go, please use the chat. Feel free to do so. I'll be checking on it. Just let me know, where I'm not being clear or where you have follow-up questions. And like Trey said, it'd be great to see some more faces. If you're kind of here and actively hanging out, that makes it feel a little bit more interactive and engaging and makes me feel loved a little bit. Okay, so the good news, you probably have all of the skills and oh, Brian's here. Amazing. Rock on. Hello, Brian. The good news is you probably have all the creative skills that you need to make a good living doing the thing that you want to do. You are probably talented enough, smart enough, um, very well equipped to actually get paid well for the things that you need to do. Now you just need to sell. You need to get comfortable selling and learn to love selling as I love selling now. A lot of people think that they don't have sales experience and they think that selling is kind of scary. They're a little bit afraid of selling because until you get more comfortable with the idea of selling, until you become more practiced with the idea of selling, it's really easy to think of selling as, okay, there's a winner and a loser in this transaction. For me to sell something, I have to convince someone to part with money when I feel like they shouldn't actually do that. And so I feel bad about that because now I'm getting their money and they're getting what? The work that I do. It's really hard to value your own work properly because you made it and you know it. And you ask yourself, would I pay this much money to have this thing done? And of course you wouldn't because you could do it yourself. But most people can't do those things themselves. And so selling is not a winner and a loser. Selling is actually winner and winner. And to illustrate this, here are some things that I spend money on fairly frequently. Uber back in the day before COVID, rent, a laptop I bought fairly recently, coffee, These are all things that I bought recently, right? And I don't think that any of those people, Uber, my landlord, maybe my landlord, uh, the Apple store, or the coffee shop, I don't think they were feeling bad about selling me those things. So before I kind of illustrate this point, put in the chat, what were some of your most recent purchases that you can think of? Oh my gosh, tires. I have a flat tire right now and I'm not happy about it. One flat tire. No one wants to buy one tire. They're all packaged and like discounted. New MacBook, Red Bull, clothing, a lot of yarn. That's cool. Want to know more about that? Online lettering course. Awesome. So you bought those things. Why did you buy those things? If you think back to the moment when you actually handed over your money to buy that thing, you told yourself a story. With my example, Uber, when I decide to get an Uber, it's because I'm telling myself I need to get there fast or maybe I shouldn't drive. When I pay rent, it's because I like the freedom of being able to move anytime. I'm not ready to buy a house yet. When I bought the laptop, it's because I needed more storage space. Turns out that audio files take up a lot of hard drive space, and I wanted better performance on that laptop. And when I buy coffee, it's usually I'm tired. This will give me energy, something like that. You literally justify to yourself everything that you buy. And for a long time, I actually kept one of those printable labels that you can like print out and put on an envelope. I put a label on my wallet that just said, "Why are you buying this?" And it wasn't because I was just trying to be super thrifty, even though I kind of was. Mostly is because I wanted to recognize at the point of when I was putting money into something, why I was doing that and what the story was that I was telling myself for why I was trading money for that thing. Because ultimately, when you do that, you decide that trading that cash is worth the benefit or whatever story that you're getting in return. And that's true of anyone who buys from you as well. So when someone pays you for your freelance graphic design service or anything that you make, it's because it's more worth it for them to have that thing done than to have cash in their pocket. So if people believe that your work is worth more than the cash equivalent that they're paying you to provide that work, then you should feel compelled to talk to as many people as you can and give them the option to make that trade because you're not selling them anymore. You're just offering your help. You're saying, I understand your needs. I can provide a solution for those needs. And I know that having that problem solved is worth more than the cash that you're going to pay me for that solution. I really like this quote from a friend of mine actually on his podcast. He was talking about no matter what he promises, no matter what he charges, his goal is to always over deliver. And so he knows that every offer he makes, everything that he sells, he's actually going to return a better outcome for that person than they're even expecting. And that's going to give them the feeling of they received that service, that product at a discount from the value that it actually was. And that's another way for him to get over, this fear of selling and this fear of feeling like, is what I'm giving as valuable as the cash that people are giving me in return? So if you've ever tried to sell anything, you've probably realized that people will say no. That's expected. That is okay. Um, I think some of the most recent sales data that I saw was for qualified leads. You can expect, like at best, a 25% close rate is kind of industry average, which means even when you feel really confident that the person needs the thing that you're selling, 3 out of 4 of them are going to tell you no. So you have to get used to and comfortable with hearing no. It's part of the process. It's totally okay. And hello. And realistically, if you're not being told no, then it's two things that are happening. You're either really underpricing yourself and leaving a ton of money on the table because they're realizing they're getting a super bargain for the work that you're doing, or you're just not getting out there and giving people the opportunity to work with you enough. What you're selling is not for everyone, but when you know who it is for, you need to offer it to as many people as you can because you're literally doing them a disservice if you're not. If you know that what you're selling is worth more to them than having cash in their pocket right now, you are doing them a disservice if you're not giving them the opportunity to make that trade. Okay. So that was kind of the mindset portion that I wanted to lay as foundation for this. But to run through those takeaways, you need to believe in the value of your work before anybody else will. Selling is a mutually beneficial activity. People tell themselves a story whenever they purchase anything that justifies the investment that they're making. You need to believe that the value of your solution is worth more to the client than the cash they give you. And if you do believe that, you should be compelled to sell to anyone who needs your help. And even though some people will say no, that is totally okay. Any questions about any of that before I move forward? Awesome. If you have questions, feel free to just say, I have a question in the chat, and then you can type it, or you can even take yourself off mute and just ask it. So now that we kind of got that foundation out of the way, let's talk about the best sales strategy that I know. And to start, I want to lay a little bit of selling 101 groundwork if this is new territory for you. When you're selling something, you can think of that entire process or the likelihood of you selling something as a sales funnel. It's shaped like this because at the top of the funnel, you have lots and lots of people who might be potential clients. And at the bottom of the funnel, you have the people who actually said, yes, here, take my money. I want to work with you. And naturally, as they go through the process of deciding to work with you or not, that number of people narrows, fewer people come out the bottom than entered into the top of the funnel. All along the way, they may fall out at different steps. The four major steps that I'll kind of outline here, at the very top, you have the awareness level. People know that you exist. They have to know that you exist in order to pay you. Below that, you have interest. They have some level of interest in actually working with you. Below that, they have the opportunity to make a decision. They basically know everything they need to know about your offering and whether or not they want to work with you. That's the decision they're making at the stage. They have all the information they need. They just need to decide, do I want to work with this person? Yes or no. And then below that, after they've said yes, they still need to take an action, which is usually signing a contract, sending you a payment, something like that. So this is a multi-step process to actually get somebody from aware that you exist on this planet to paying you money to help them with some sort of thing. And you have to start at the top. You can't have someone decide to pay you if they don't know you exist. That's pretty common sense. And so you spend a lot of time working to find leads who you need to first make aware that you exist and then get them interested in actually working with you in some capacity. That's a lot of time. And, you know, as you can see, ultimately only a few people shake out of the bottom of the funnel. So to me, the best thing that you can do, if it were possible, would be to skip those first two steps entirely and spend all your time pushing people into the decision and action phase of working with you. And you might say, that doesn't make sense. You just said you need to make people aware of you. But this is what referrals do for you. Everybody loves referrals. And when you get a referral, whoever referred that person took care of the awareness and interest stage because they said, hey, you should work with Jay. And they'll say, who the heck is that? And they'll tell a little bit of information about you that will get them interested. And if they want that introduction, now they're almost already in the decision phase. That's why everybody loves referrals, because life is easy when you have high quality inbound leads, when you have people coming directly to you saying, hey, I heard about you from this person, let's work together. Those leads typically come from word of mouth. A lot of people, you ask them, well, how do you get your clients? They'll say it's a lot of word of mouth. But what about these words? And what about these mouths? The words are usually nice words that people are saying about you and the work that you do. The mouths are people who know, like, and trust you. And I call these people your advocates. The more advocates that you have, the more referrals you receive. So the more people that are out there who already know, like, and trust you, who are saying, hey, you should work with Brian, you should work with Cody, you should work with Trey, the more likely that you will at some point in time be getting an introduction to somebody who's already in the decision phase, ready to work with you. And in case it's not obvious, somebody else recommending your work is so much more powerful than you recommending your work. It just means a lot more when someone says, you should work with Jay, than when I say, you should work with Jay, please. And since your business probably already runs on word of mouth, let's dial that up even more. Let's turn it up to 11. This is purely in here for Brian. Not that I knew he was going to be here, but purely in here to say, let's turn this up to 11 and use what I call the eyes and ears method of selling, which is both an acronym and sort of a philosophy. When you have people out there advocating for you and sharing your business, they are literally acting as an extra set of eyes and ears for your business. They have your interests at heart, and they're pushing people your way. But if you look at it as an acronym, eyes breaks down to establish your elevator speech, and ears breaks down to empower advocates to refer sales. So if you think about it as a whole, this is a two-step process. First, you establish your elevator speech, and second, you empower your existing advocates to refer sales to you. And I want to break that down a little bit more. In the meantime, as I catch my breath, anybody have a question? Anybody want to break this down before I break it down? Are you still listening? If you're still listening, type something in the chat. Maybe just a yes. Okay. Yes, yes, woo! Amazing. Okay, thank you guys for validating me. So let's break this down. First step, establish your elevator speech. Your elevator speech or elevator pitch, unfortunately, speech just makes the acronym work better, even though I like the phrase elevator pitch a little bit more. We're gonna call it an elevator speech. This is a short description of what you do. And the goal is, in one breath, you should be able to tell someone who you help and how you help them in one breath. It needs to be memorable, and it needs to be really short and specific because we have bad memories. I recommend using the framework, I help X, do Y. Very simple and straightforward. I help this person solve this problem. Some examples of this, for me, I help creatives make money freelancing. I have a friend who helps B2B SaaS companies write better emails. You might help brides capture their weddings, or you might help podcasters grow their audience. Whatever that is, it should be in one breath. And if you have the word "and" in it, it's probably too long because we just don't remember that much information, and we like really specific terms. I'll get to specializing here in a minute, but I want to nail down a little bit more on this. Our memories are just really bad, and typically we also are lazy. And so if somebody says, hey, I keep hearing Jay's name come up, what does he do? If that person doesn't have a ready to, word vomit phrase for what I do, they're going to try to figure it out themselves because we'd like to put people in boxes. It's just kind of the way that we categorize things as humans. We like to put people in a box, and that's a bummer and it's annoying. But if you don't give someone the box to put you into, they're going to come up with it on their own, and they're probably not going to do the job that you want them to. So at least give them the stupid small box that they can use in these moments so that they can refer people to you productively. So using this framework, I help X do Y is the shortest way to do that. Now keep in mind that people buy solutions. People buy outcomes. People don't buy skills, and they don't buy services. So when you help X do Y, make sure you're solving an actual problem because people want to buy solutions to their problems. They want to buy outcomes. They don't care how you do it. They don't care what skills you're using to do it. They don't want to use their imagination at all. They want you to know that you understand the problem that they have and that you can solve it. That's all they want to know. And when in doubt, if you don't know if you're solving a problem, most solutions boil down to people want more customers, clients, subscribers, or followers. They just want more. They want to increase their profit, which either comes from increasing top line revenue or decreasing costs. And maybe sometimes they want to feel better about themselves. You might be able to actually play to their vanity a little bit, which is usually also tied to like subscribers or followers, things that are not immediately revenue generating outcomes. But sometimes you can really get someone to take action and move because they are hyper aware of all of their competitors. They know what they're doing. If they are really far behind in terms of what they're putting out and how their work or their product relates to that of their competitor. And you can say, I can make you look like this, or, seem this legit. That might actually be effective in selling a solution. But typically, if you can show how investing $1 with you today can become $2 tomorrow, it's going to be really, really easy to get this person to work with you. You just need to show them how the solution pays for itself. So anybody feel brave and want to try the I help X do Y framework in the chat or out loud? I'll pause and look awkwardly at you for a little bit. And this can vary by audience a little bit. If most of the time I say I help creatives make money freelancing. Depending on the audience, I might pivot that even more. Like I might say I help creatives be more confident business owners, or if this was just a purely sales presentation, I say I help creatives get better at selling. Nobody in the chat yet? Come on, guys. I help songwriters finish their songs. Love that. Brian helps podcasters make great sounding podcasts. Can attest. Somebody else. Come on. You can video content company that helps businesses build better relationship with their audience. I like that, except I don't think you necessarily need to say we're a video content company. You could say I help people build a better relationship to their audience through video. But it's mostly there. Because the solution is I help people build a better relationship with their audience. That's positive. Or I help people more deeply engage with their audience or build a more committed audience. I help startups create their visual identities. That's good. If they are specifically looking to create their identity, like they would have to be basically saying, my problem is I need to create my visual identity. And then you saying that is really powerful. If the problem was, I want to look legitimate and I want my, my visual identity to be aligned with our company. I don't know. This is a work in progress. Mine constantly evolves. This presentation itself, I probably revised 5 times and changed my I help X do Y every time. I help small businesses create a cult following around their brand. I like that. Growing an audience is always going to be something that people want. If you can promise to grow the number of customers or people in an audience, that's going to really get some sales. You obviously then have to follow through on it, but it's very measurable and it's something that people are looking for. So if you can promise that and deliver on it, always a good promise. All right, let's move on. Let's say you have your elevator speech, you're going to work it out, you feel good about it. Now we go into part 2, the ears, empowering advocates to refer sales. This is a quote from a book called The Code of Trust. Robin Dreeke was in, I want to say, I forget if it's the FBI or the CIA, something in intelligence, where he had to talk to a lot of people. And this quote really stuck out to me, which was, a tenet of evolutionary psychology is that people are hardwired to enjoy offering assistance as not only a mechanism to receive assistance themselves, but also to satisfy the innate human drive for altruism. What does that mean? That means that people generally want to help other people when they can. Sometimes it's a feel-good thing for them, but generally, if they're presented with a problem from another person, they're going to try and solve that problem for that person. So a little bit ago, I was talking about advocates, these people that are out there spreading the good word about your business pretty actively. You already have a lot of these people. They are former clients if you did good work, they're friends and family, they're former coworkers, peers, people who just admire your work, maybe follow you on Instagram. Every day, those people are going out into the world and they're having conversations with other very real human beings. And because we are self-absorbed, self-interested creatures, Conversations will generally touch on problems or pain points that we're feeling in the given moment. We will constantly draw back and complain or talk about some sort of problem that we're dealing with. And as Robin Dreek noted in that quote, your advocate, the person on the receiving end of that problem, will probably immediately go into problem solving mode. They will say, how can I help solve this problem for this person? And often they do that by solving that problem with a person. They think, who can I introduce this person to that can solve this problem if they can't do it themselves? If they're receiving a problem, or if you're being told a problem that is the problem you solve, you jump all over that and say, I can solve that for you. That's great. But often it's not something we can do, and we think, who do I know that can help this person? You want to be the first person that your advocate thinks of to solve that problem for that person. And this happens because of those specific terms we were talking about. If someone says, I need someone to help me write better emails, the copywriter who says, I help B2B SaaS companies write better emails is going to be the first one to mind. We're going to go into our recall bank, and we're going to connect very specific phrases together. These are like keywords, as if we're searching into our own brain database on keywords. Similarly, if this person runs a B2B SaaS company and they say, I need help with copywriting, they're going to connect to B2B SaaS and they're going to recommend that person. Specialized words are easy to remember and for your advocate to make a connection. That's why you need to use these specialized words and be really brief, because you just implant these tags in their brain. The problem is the first person who comes to mind is going to be the person that gets that referral. If you say you're a photographer, I know a lot of photographers. And even though I'm out in the world and I'm talking to a lot of people, and often someone will say, do you know any photographers? I'm only going to recommend one, maybe two people. And so the challenge is to be that first to mind person. And it's really hard to do that just with, the overarching skill, because there's a bunch of them. So even if that person literally just says, do you know any photographers? I'm probably going to start making some assumptions or some connections based on what I know about that person. If we were talking about their wedding, they say, do you know a photographer? I'm going to think, who's a wedding photographer? If I know something about their business or their budget, I'm going to connect that to people in my network that I think fit that specific business, industry, budget, something like that. So the more specific you are in that you tell me, here's my box, Jay, here's who I help and how I help them, that makes it much more likely that you become first to mind. Without specializing, it's really hard to be first to mind, and it's going to be really hard to get referrals because you're just not the first person in the recall bank. So remember that you have these advocates, and they will become more productive if you give them the tools, if you give them that elevator speech. Using that same elevator speech over and over around your advocates, you start to give them exactly the tools they need to really be productive in sending people to you. So once you have that, start sharing that with your advocates. Memorize it, use the same phrase over and over again. The good news is you get asked all the time, what do you do? And this is the perfect answer to that. You don't have to be afraid of that phrase anymore, because you've just come up with the perfect, rehearsed, specific, intentional phrase to say, I help X do Y. Over time, it'll stick in their minds if it is short and specific. And as you create more advocates for you and your business, the more likely it is that at any one given time, someone is going to be referred or referring someone to you. And one last thing here, take that, I help X do Y, take those specific terms, align that to your digital identity on your website, on your social media profiles. Those same terms should stick out everywhere that you are, so that it's not a question what you're doing and who you're helping right now. So some takeaways here: get really good at talking about who you help and how you help them. Be as specific and succinct as possible. This makes you more memorable and more referable. So use that framework, I help X do Y. Begin using that language around your advocates, former clients, peers, coworkers, colleagues, friends and family, people who admire your work. Proactively meet people, make friends, and create more advocates, and eventually you'll have consistent inbound leads. Awesome. I'm going to take a breath. Who has questions on the eyes and ears method? And feel free to unmute and just toss them out.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you do many things. You have a few different like sub brands or what you want to call them. And what's one way that you've kind of unified or simplified that communication?
So even if you have multiple projects like I do, I'm constantly trying to pare things back so that they are aligned. At this point, I really only have one project that's not at all aligned with everything else that I do, and I've removed it from my bios and the things that I talk about. But overall, all the things that I do fall under the umbrella of helping creatives become more confident, profitable business owners. And I do that in a number of ways. Depending on the audience that I'm talking to, I may introduce it differently because I know that um, a room full of graphic designers is probably going to be close to a bunch of other graphic designers. So I might even go so far as to say I help graphic designers sell more projects in a room like that, because that's going to help them know that this person helps my friends and people like me to sell more projects. You can pin down that way and you can test some of this stuff out. A lot of times the best way to know if this is landing is to just test it out in person at events. We don't have a lot of events now, but this is an event. You can do it at digital events. You know, People always ask you, what do you do? And if you say, I help X do Y, you can see in their response whether that resonates for them, whether they get it. They might ask some follow-up questions. It might be unclear. And if it's unclear, clarify it, because the worst thing you can do is have this rehearsed and repeated response that nobody really understands what it means. And they're not going to go out and be productive as an advocate for you because they don't even know how to say to somebody else, this is what Jay does. I didn't really get it. And they might have been embarrassed to ask about it. So you have to kind of read their eyes and their body language.
Sweet, thanks.
Anybody else want to jump in? Any questions? Guys, we lost all the video feeds. I feel so lonely. Are you still with me? At least type yes if you're still hanging around paying attention. Okay, great. I like exclamation points. That makes me feel good. Matt's showing a video feed. Thank you, Matt. Making me feel here. Awesome. All right. Okay, let's continue. Let's get more active. The things that I was talking about were kind of foundational, thoughtful things. What do you say if they ask how after? Okay, I'm going to pause and answer this question from Danielle because I think it's timely. She says, what do you say if they ask how you do that after? You tell them, and what's really powerful is if you can tie that how into a story. So I'm going to try to do this on the fly. If someone said, let's say I spoke to somebody and I said, I help creatives make more money freelancing. People will say, how? And I'll say, okay, so do you remember when you were playing baseball as a kid and you were facing the pitcher for the first time? You saw other people swinging a bat and hitting the ball. It looked easy. And you get up there and you're just not making contact. Like it's really, really hard and you can't quite get it. And your coach takes you aside and you get a bunch of reps and you work with that coach. And now suddenly it feels a lot more natural. It feels a lot easier. You're seeing results. That's what working with a coach is like, even in a creative field. If you can tie a story together to start to make a connection, that's really effective. But if they ask how, that's an invitation to kind of get into your exact process and say, well, I'm glad that you asked. Let me see, Danielle, if you told me earlier what your business does, and I can dig in specifically. Paints. Tell me more about paints. What does paints mean? And you can get off mute and say hello if you want. Okay, student. Like I said, at the end of the day, if they ask how you do that, just get into your process. Because a lot of times, if you get into the decision phase or near the decision phase with a prospect, they're going to say, okay, but how does this work? And you're going to have to get good at explaining what the process actually looks like and make it sound easy and inviting for them. Again, people want solutions and they want outcomes and they want them to be easy. If I'm going to trade money for this thing, I want that to be almost all the input that I do. I give you money, I give you information, you do all the hard stuff. So if they're going to ask you how, make it seem really, really easy, almost like magic that, okay, well, when you work with me, I work you through my specific process. I'm going to ask you a few questions up front, and you just have to get me this information and out comes this outcome. And if you want me to go deeper on that, Danielle, just keep asking questions and I'll do that. Let's get a little bit more active because you can't just wait around all day and wait for referrals. You will go broke. So let's get inside the mind of one of your potential clients. Who do we hire? Who do we decide to give money to, AKA solve our problem? People that we trust to do the job. We hire someone that we believe can genuinely deliver the outcome or the solution that they're saying that they can. And frankly, we hire people that we like. You know, not only do we need to trust that you can do the work, but we need to have some sort of feeling that we're going to get along well together, or it's just not going to do it for us. So ask yourself, who already trusts you? Who already likes you? Because people are going to hire who they like and trust already. Start with those people. And surprise, surprise, those people are your advocates. It's the same people. Your advocates will either hire you themselves or tell other people to hire you. So you should spend your time actively creating new advocates because that just plays in your favor mathematically. It's all a numbers game at some point. Spend all your time creating new advocates or reconnecting with existing advocates. There's this idea called Dunbar's number, which says that you can only maintain, I think, 250 personal relationships at any given time as a human being. I don't actually subscribe to that idea, but I get it. There's just a limited number of people that you have communicated with actively and productively in the last couple of months. So there's always the opportunity to reconnect with people who have had a good experience with you, who like and respect you, that haven't heard from you in a while. You don't even need to spend all that much time creating new advocates because you probably have plenty of opportunity to reconnect and further build relationships with people that you've already started building relationships with. And ultimately, the closer the relationship, the more likely that that's going to yield referrals for you at some point in time. Most conversations that you have do not yield new projects. Just about everyone in your life will not be a client for you. Almost everyone will not be a client for you, okay? And so you don't want to approach conversations white knuckling this and thinking, I need this to become a client, because you're just going to turn everybody off. You're going to have this really bad impression on everyone you talk to because you're trying to turn them into a client right away. And almost nobody does that. But the flip side, any conversation can yield a new advocate. Just a single really great conversation where it's clear that you care about that person, that you are thoughtful and probably good about what you do. That one conversation can lead to a new advocate. That person who only talked to you one time may, in good faith, refer someone to you that they know. So always, always, always enter conversations trying to create an advocate. Don't worry about whether they're going to be a client or not. And remember this as just ABCs: advocate before client. Because before anybody hires you, they're going to be an advocate for you, even if they're advocating to themselves that they should hire you. So now I want to get you out of the mindset entirely of finding clients. You don't need to find clients. Finding clients means that you're looking for somebody who is in this very brief decision period where they're publicly saying, because otherwise you wouldn't find them, publicly saying, I need help with this thing. You can find those people. They certainly exist on platforms like Upwork, but those people are inviting a lot of competition into the process. You know, if they're saying, I need help with this, and they're saying that publicly, there are going to be a lot of other people that find that person too. So to me, I don't look to find clients. I basically let clients find me. I try to create new advocates, and I let people find their way to me. Instead, I focus on creating clients. And I do that by starting with relationships. Instead of trying to find clients, try to make friends. Just try to meet new people and genuinely make a new friendship, or at least, you know, like a peer or colleague relationship with somebody. Treat every conversation that you have with people like that as sort of like an empathetic fact-finding mission. Try to learn everything you can about that person. A good game to play is basically, how long in this can I spend this conversation talking about the other person? If you can spend an entire conversation just getting information about and asking questions of that other person, that's going to leave such an incredible impression on them. Now, if they're asking you a lot of questions, don't just fight back and say, well, I asked you first. Like, don't get combative about it. But people generally won't do that because people generally like to talk. They like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about their problems. So if you serve that up and say, hey, tell me about you. Like, what do you care about? What are you interested in? What are you spending your time on? What are you watching on Netflix right now? Like, ask these questions. People are going to be happy to answer it. And they're going to leave that conversation thinking you were an incredible conversationalist. And while you're doing that, when you ask these people, your advocates included, how they're doing, say, this is a crazy time. How are you handling all the lockdowns and the protests? Like, how are you doing? Ask them what they're struggling with. They might bring up some problems that you can help with, either personally or introducing somebody else. Even if it is outside of your wheelhouse, if you're talking to somebody and you think of yourself as a copywriter that focuses on emails, but they say, I'm just having a really hard time keeping up with my social media right now. That's an opportunity for you to say, that's a problem. I can present a solution. I can offer to be the solution for that, even if it's out of your wheelhouse. And that person wasn't necessarily looking to hire somebody right now. But if you say, hey, I hear you have a problem. Is this a problem for you? And repeat it back to them. And they say, yes, that's a problem right now. And you say, okay, great. I can actually take care of that for you. We could work something out so that I just handle that every month for you. I've done it in the past. I feel really confident doing it. You have now, gotten them to admit that they have something that they want to solve. And if you say, I can solve that for you, and lower the barrier to just them saying yes, you're going to get a lot of people that just say yes. And now you've created a client out of thin air. You don't have any competition there. So, when they give you an opportunity finally and they say, hey, enough about me, I've been talking a lot. What do you do? That's an invitation for you to share your elevator speech. Oh, thank you for asking. I help X do Y. If you know any X who could have help or who need help with Y, I'd love an introduction. No pressure, no expectation, but keep me in mind. Do that with every single conversation that you have. Go back through your entire, contact list, email contacts, go through everywhere. Reconnect with people in your life who have already had a good connection with you. Ask them how they're doing. You know, um, you'll have a chance to share your elevator speech, and now you've created a new advocate for your business. And of course, you could prioritize this and be kind of intentional to say, I want to spend most of my time working with people who are hubs of certain communities. If there are people who run meetup groups, those are great people to make friends with. Really great people to make friends with because they're already really connected to a lot of people. They're constantly getting hit up for help with X, Y, and Z. And if you can be a solution for them, that's really great for you, for them, for the person who needs help. It's easier to compete when you don't have competition. So instead of thinking about finding clients, let clients find you and focus your time on creating clients. Unearth problems, solve problems for people. You're competing with, a set of one because it's going to be really hard for them to say, oh, thank you for helping me realize I need help with this. Actually, let me get back to you. I'm going to go, shop around on price and I'll let you know if I want to go with you. Like, no one's going to say that to your face. They're going to be excited to work with you if they're somebody that already knows, likes, and trusts you anyway. So when you're creating clients, you just need to be the best option. And same with when you're talking about what you do and trying to get people to refer you to other people. You need to be the best option if you get hired. We hire the best person for the job. But best is a totally, totally relative term. Best takes into account, what are my decision-making criteria? Am I looking for the best person who fits within my budget? Am I looking for the best person in Columbus, Ohio? Am I looking for the best person who has experience in healthcare? Like, best is very, very relative to whatever the decision-making criteria that person has. And they're probably going to weight those things too. So best could mean quality of work. It can mean a lot of things to different people. So you should take an intentional stance on the Y that I help. The X that I help. When I help X do Y, that X is going to be looking for the best option. Who do I want to be the best option for? you probably don't want to be the best option for someone who's trying to get the cheapest job possible. You should explicitly not be the cheapest option, because if you're the cheapest option, people probably aren't going to come searching for you. They're just going to go on Upwork or whatever platform and try to find the cheapest option for the job. When people are finding you and seeking you out, it's because your reputation has preceded you as being the best option for this thing. And it's usually related to your quality of work, the nature of your work, even the way that you work with other people. People want to work with really people want to work with people they want to work with. Like people want to work with somebody that is friendly and communicative and trustworthy and reliable. It's unbelievable to me how much of a competitive advantage it is to just be reliable, to just deliver the things that you're saying you're going to deliver on the time frame that you're going to deliver them on. That makes such a difference these days. So resolve to be the best option for some subset of people. And then always, always, always start with these advocates, because cold outreach is hard. So start. I guarantee, even when you think you've talked to everybody that you already know, you're wrong. Find someone that you've had 2 conversations with, that you can already have some common ground with, because people don't make purchasing decisions, and they often don't even make referrals just on one conversation. They want a trend line of having multiple positive interactions with you. So add another dot onto that trend line with somebody to create a good impression, ask them about them, and then, again, share your elevator speech, ask for any introductions. Not to say I'm looking for people who can buy these projects right now. If you help B2B SaaS companies, just say, do you know any B2B SaaS companies that I can talk to? I want to get their insights. No matter who you talk to, I really, really recommend making specific offers if you're going to try to sell a project. And by that, I mean, if you're going to be reaching out to potential clients, to your advocates, you should prepare a specific offer that you can proactively make for them. Making an offer means coming to the table with a defined outcome, a defined solution, a defined scope, a price, a timeline. It's the difference between asking, hey, do you have any copywriting needs? And I'm going to work with a limited number of clients this month to write some case studies. Are you interested in that? If you say, hey, this month I have space for 2 more clients, I'm going to be writing case studies for them. They're going to look like this. Here's an example. These case studies cost $500 a piece. If you want to be slotted for July, I need to know now, and I can get that on my calendar. Why does that work? A couple reasons. Scarcity is one of them. We are inherently attracted to things that are rare. That's why original pieces of art go for millions of dollars, and why prints of the same art go for like single numbers of dollars. We want something that is rare. We want an original. We want something that is difficult to get. It signals extra value. If we can be one of the rare people who get to work with this person, that's valuable. And also urgency. We really only make decisions when we're forced to make the decision. You need to give people a deadline. You need to give them a reason to make a decision, yes or no, or they'll put it off forever. They will not decide until you make them decide. So make these specific offers because it helps the client visualize exactly what the outcome of working with you will look like. It lays everything out for them. It takes away any type of imagination you require of them. You lower the bar to literally just having them say yes, and that's what you need to get started. You say, do you want this solution? It's this price. Here's the timeline. Here's what you get. I can start on this date. All I need you to do is say yes and sign this contract. Very easy to say yes to that. And if all of that is failing, if for some reason you're still finding that you can't get a new client, a new project, just nothing's landing, you need to look at your overall client formula, is what I call it, because I like to just drag math into this for some reason. Your formula looks like this. You basically have a hypothesis that adds on to your elevator speech a price. I help X do Y for this price. That's kind of your hypothesis for how your business works and what you're able to do for other people. But you need to keep in mind that there are 3 variables here in play. You have the person, you have the service or solution, and you have the price. So if things aren't working, you need to think about, maybe it's my messaging. Maybe I'm explaining this the wrong way. Maybe I'm targeting the wrong type of person. Maybe my solution isn't the solution that person needs. Maybe the price is off. All of these variables play a role in that hypothesis. And so don't just automatically throw your hands up and say, this isn't working. You need to kind of experiment. You need to say, maybe this isn't my target client. I need to learn more about that person. Just ask the type of client that you're looking for. Try to talk with some of them and just get their advice, get their insight. Try to track and say, look, I'm not going to sell you on anything. I just want to know if this makes sense to you and if this is something that you think your peers would want. And if not, why not? Melissa asked, what is your opinion of having some sort of rate card that the client can review and choose services or packages from? I personally don't like that. A lot of it kind of depends on who you're working with, because a lot of agencies, if you're going to subcontract for them, they want to be pretty transactional and just know the rate card so that they can mark up their fee and price it to the client. And so you could be kind of transparent with an agency if you're subcontracting. But if you're trying to work client direct, I don't like rate cards personally, because sharing your price like that invites price shopping. What I would do, what I recommend more often, and what I do is I make sure I really, really understand the problem that this client has. And I create a proposal for them where it lays out in the beginning. I have literally like an overview document that says, based on our conversation, here are the goals for working together. Here's what I'm learning. And then I break out specifically, like, here are the outcomes that we want from this project. And usually it ties to growth or revenue or driving down costs or something like that. And then I will list out different packages. So yes, ultimately I do have different packages, but they map to those outcomes. I say, here's everything we've talked about. Here's the problem that I'm hearing. Here are the solutions that we want, and here's how I'm going to solve that. And I give them 3 tiers when I can, at 3 different prices, where each of those tiers is valuable and will yield some amount of outcome for them. Maybe not every outcome, but even if they take the lowest tier, they need to walk away saying, I'm glad I paid that money. I got something out of this. But I like to have those tiers and put it into a proposal and not just a rate card, because again, people buy solutions. So you need to sell them on the solution, and you probably don't have a rate card that just shows their solution. You have a rate card with like, here's what I charge hourly for this type of work. And I think that's entering the relationship into a difficult, it's getting started on a difficult foot to have a really positive experience on either end, because it just feels a little too transactional. And they're probably going to try to just push the price down because they're thinking about just like hemorrhaging money hourly when they need to be thinking about, this is the outcome and I'm paying this much for the overall outcome, and that is a bargain. Let me know if that answers or did not answer your question, Melissa. So if you are not being rejected and told why people aren't working with you, that means you haven't actually gotten enough data from this whole experiment that I'm talking about. If you are being rejected before the point of even having a conversation and pitching your service, you can't say that the hypothesis is a failure, because you don't even know if the price was wrong, if the service was wrong. You have a conversation problem. Mostly when people feel like they're failing, it's because they're having a conversation problem. They're failing at the point of getting the initial conversation to be productive. And that's because they're trying to go from zero to project right away. And again, you really want to start with the relationship. You want to build a relationship so you can be fairly transparent and open with these people. And that just yields better long-term client results. So if you're not being explicitly rejected on the project that you're proposing by the person that you think you should be helping for the price that you think you should charge, you haven't run enough experiments. You need to collect data on this, whether you're putting it in a spreadsheet or just collecting it in the old brain bank, and you need to experiment. And this is another reason why working with advocates is just a lot easier. There have been times in the past when I've been at a difficult point where it's like, hey, I misjudged my cash flow and I am broke and I need a project like tomorrow. And people are in that position all the time. I can solve that pretty quickly at this point by just going to any number of these people who are close to me and being pretty honest and saying, starting with them, hey, what's going on with you right now? And they'll talk about what's going on with them. They might even unearth some problems that I can solve. But eventually they'll say, how are you? How are things going for you? And I'll start with, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm really excited about it. Y is doing really well. Here's why it's doing so well. But I'm having a little bit of a cash flow issue right now, and I need to find a couple more clients before the end of the year. So if you know anybody that needs help with making their e-commerce site sell more products, or if you need somebody who really wants to invest time into making their emails retain more of their customers, I would love an introduction. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna pause here. A couple of questions. Sarah says, any advice on good, non-awkward ways to reconnect with people who could be potential advocates, especially if they aren't local to you? Totally. I think this is so much easier than we think that it is. We put so much weight and fear into these little bits of outreach. But to me, I would just be very direct, very brief, kind of thoughtful and kind. Like send an email, say, hey, I was doing X thing, whether that's listening to a podcast or reading an article, some reason that made you think of this person. You thought of this person, so something happened. Find a way to say, hey, I was doing this. I thought of you. It's been a while since we connected. If you have 20 to 30 minutes in the next couple of weeks, I'd love to get on the phone and catch up. Just that. Really low ask. The ask is just to spend 20 to 30 minutes on the phone. Always give a long time horizon, because if you say, let me know if there's a time this week to catch up, that person's probably going to get pretty uncomfortable. And not because they don't want to catch up with you, but because they don't have time this week and they don't want to put it in this week. They've already looked at their entire calendar for the week and they're dreading this week already. So to put something else in there is going to be upsetting. Just say, if there's time in the next few weeks, or on the podcast that I run, I give guests months to schedule. If there's time in the next couple of months that works for you, I would love to get an interview scheduled. Make the time horizon long. More often than not, they'll go sooner than later anyway, but you really build a good relationship with them when you show that you respect their time, you understand they're busy, and you do that even just by being brief in that email. I was thinking of you. Would love to catch up. It's been a while. Let me know a time in the next couple of weeks where you can spend 20 to 30 minutes on the phone. Cody says, I think that's good advice. What if people come to you with rate as their first question? I've had people who know quality of work but don't understand how much quality work may cost. Whenever that happens to me, Cody, it's just like I get a bad feeling. It's like, I don't think that this is going to be great. And so if I think it's going to be a bad relationship, I start high. I basically say, I don't think this person's going to want to compete on price. So I'm going to bid high. And if they do actually bite on that, at least I'll be excited about the money that I'm getting, because they're probably going to be difficult. But at least if you can say, you know what, here's my price. It's, I'll quote things in like the hundreds of dollars per hour at this point. Like, I don't really want to do that. I'll do it, but here's the price. And the crazy thing is, the more obvious it is that you don't need the work and you are very confident in your prices, the more people are just like, oh, that's what it is. Well, I want to work with Cody, so I guess I'll pay that. It's surprising to me, but even as I charge more on the few hourly rate type things that I do, people respond really well to it, just because they can feel that if I don't pay that, he's going to walk away. All right, so a couple of closing thoughts on the presentation. Like I said, the good news is you probably already have all the creative skills that you need to make a comfortable living doing the thing that you do. It's just time to start selling yourself. So start with people who like and trust you already. Start with your advocates, because people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. Have conversations with your advocates. Treat them as empathetic, fact-finding missions. Really spend as much time as possible asking them as many questions as you can to learn everything about where they are right now. Try to add value, try to help them out, even if it's connecting them to somebody else. Experiment with your client formula. I help X do Y for Z price. Play around with that, figure out what the magic pieces are. Don't give up. Literally, sorry guys. I was getting a little too animated with my hands and I shut it down. Don't give up. Literally, I think the number one skill in entrepreneurship and running a business is just resilience. You need to be resilient. You need to be okay with failing and getting knocked down and getting back up. That is like the number one indicator for me if somebody is going to make it. And it really only gets easier from here. This is one of the things that I've told myself for a couple of years, and it's rang true, and it's been really empowering for me. Basically, this is the hardest that this is the hardest that it will ever be. It gets easier. You build a bigger name for yourself. You create more advocates. You create more friends. It only gets easier over time. So just keep fighting and make that true. Some ways that you can take action on this from here: dial in your elevator speech. I help X do Y. Do that, write it down, play around with some different variations, send it to some of your friends. If you're really lost and you're not sure how to describe this, ask some of your friends, how would you describe what I do? See where you're already creating an impression with people and where they're already creating that box for you. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but it can be a jumping off point. Define that client formula, play around with it. Reach out to 10 of your advocates and schedule a time to talk and reconnect. People have a lot of time right now. It's probably pretty likely that they can find 20 to 30 minutes to get on a phone call or a Zoom call with you. So reach out, say, hey, I've been thinking about you. We haven't talked in a while. Would you be open to a 20 or 30-minute phone call to catch up here in the next couple of weeks? Make sure your own social media and website messaging is aligned to this client formula we're talking about. I wouldn't put your price on your website. I would keep prices off anything public so you can negotiate on a case-by-case basis, but I help X do Y and make sure that messaging is aligned online. Send 5 more outreach emails to potential clients, people who may not be advocates yet, that you can become advocates. Think about the specific offers that you can make that lower the bar down to just saying yes. And let me help. I have a directory on Freelancing School that you can create a brief profile for yourself, the skills, Brian's in there, the skills that you offer. And I honestly use this personally myself all the time because I get a ton of people who ask me if I know somebody who can do X, Y, or Z. And I go to this Airtable and I filter it by skill and I send them who's in this Airtable. So if you're not already in this directory, you can go to freelancing.school/directory or /talent and get in there. It's a simple form. It looks like this. And if you like this, I have a free course on freelancing.school/free course. You can check out my newsletter. You can email me. You can follow me on social media. I'm everywhere. But we have as much time here as you guys want. So if you have any questions, this would be a fantastic time to ask them. Ask them in the chat. I'm happy to also, you can share your video and your audio and ask a question directly. I'm looking at the chat now. Was this helpful? Did you guys think this was helpful? And if it was helpful, let me know what part of this you thought was most helpful, because that helps me tailor this, but I got time, so feel free to ask any questions that you have. Doesn't even have to be directly related to what this presentation was.
Got a question.
Hit me, Trey.
Do you find that LinkedIn is effective to find new advocates? Have you seen success there?
I think any social media is effective at finding new advocates. I think that Twitter is great for finding new advocates. I think that Instagram is great. I think you can just you can really make a good impression and stand out on any of these platforms by just taking one little step further and either recording a voice memo in like Instagram Direct, or LinkedIn Direct has that now, or you can do even a quick Loom video, loom.com. I will shoot very short messages that are recorded audio or video saying hello. It's obvious that I took effort to do that. It's obvious that it's personalized because I say their name out loud. They can start to get a sense for my vibe and whether we'd get along well. It's just really, really easy to stand out and make a good impression. Even when people are emailing you, you can respond to emails that people send you with a very thoughtful 3-minute Loom video that you would not be able to type out and have people get the same effect from. And it blows people's minds just to be like, wow, thank you so much for this video. It just feels special. So whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere, it's easier to access the people that you want to access than you think, especially if you're thoughtful and uh, respectful of their time. But yeah, I think LinkedIn's a great place.
Yeah, that's really smart.
And LinkedIn, I think, is really underrated on as far as it goes with social engagement because you they want to become more of a content platform and more of a social platform. So if you have something that is not hot garbage in the feed and people are engaging with it, they push that post to your second and third degree connections because they are in need of new good content. So you can like really expand your reach and get in front of a lot of people just by spending a little bit of time writing something that's good. A lot of people that are in the Making Midwest community I know are putting a ton of effort into their visual assets that they're putting on Instagram.
Yep.
Take the same images or video that you're putting on Instagram and put them on LinkedIn. It's so rare. It's so interesting. It's so much better than most of the stuff you see there. You can use the same caption. Hashtags actually work on LinkedIn. It's actually useful. So it's really underrated, I think.
Hmm. Looks like Cody's got a comment here.
Cody said, this is good. Thank you, Cody. I think simplifying the elevator pitch is really helpful for nailing down a target audience and product or service. Also thinking about creating advocates rather than finding clients. That's gold. Totally. It's a mindset shift. It creates new confidence. It makes it just even more attractive to work with you. And again, if you're doing the elevator speech and you have the word and, I help X and Y do, or I help X and X do Y, that's going to be too much. And it sucks, but it's true. Like I used to say that Unreal Collective was for founders, freelancers, and creators. And that's too much. So I've had to scale back on that. All right, guys, I'll stare awkwardly at the camera for a little bit longer in case you have any more questions. But if you don't, then we can kind of wrap things up.
And for everyone here, this will be available later. So it'll be, you can view the whole thing. It's been recorded. So if you missed anything or you want to go back, you'll have access to it.
Awesome. Good. Thank you, Stacy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for taking the time. Sincerely, if I can be helpful, feel free to email me. That goes directly to my inbox. I respond to every email that goes in there. Would love to connect and see what you guys are up to on any of the social medias. Thank you, Sarah. Great to chat with you. Yeah, Heather, seriously, Loom is amazing. And the other thing that people don't realize about Loom is you can copy a linked GIF into emails. I'm going to take a second and show you guys what that looks like. Bear with me. Am I still showing you my screen right now? Wow, you're just really seeing everything in my inbox right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so this is something I respond to a lot of my Loom or a lot of my email now with Loom, and I do a linked GIF like this. So if somebody responds and I want to provide a thoughtful response, but I hate typing, which I do, I'll record it in Loom and embed it into this email and say, hey, great to hear from you. I recorded a quick video response here, and it shows my face. So they know that it's not spam or something that I'm screwing with them. It's great. People love it, and I think it's really, really underutilized.
So I have a question on the Loom. What would be an example that you would use that on like Instagram or LinkedIn per se?
I probably wouldn't use Loom on Instagram or LinkedIn. Well, I guess I would on LinkedIn. What I was saying with Instagram is in direct messages, you can record voice memos really, really quickly. And it just
Mm.
makes a really good personal touch when somebody follows you and you immediately send them a DM to say, hey, Heather, so great to meet you. Thanks for following along. I was just looking at your profile. I saw this post that you made or this thing that you shared, and I really loved it. Looking forward to following you here. It can be that simple, but it's just like a little bit more effort that immediately makes that person think like, wow, I'm glad I followed that person. Like maybe I'm actually going to have a friendship or relationship with this person. In LinkedIn, you can do the same thing with voice memos, Or if you want to get a little bit more aggressive on LinkedIn, if you're really trying to show someone that you know something about something, I've had people who were trying to sell me like SEO copywriting services. And that guy went through my website, went through like Ahrefs, and was showing me exactly where my website was failing and telling me on the fly, like, here's what you need to fix. That's pretty compelling. That person saying, here's what I'm seeing. I know my stuff. I know the problem here. Here's what you need to do. I can fix it. If you want to chat, we can do that. Otherwise, I hope that this was helpful to you. Literally helping me without permission or like me asking, which is great. And I had a really great impression of that guy. And yeah, that's 5 to 10 to 15 minutes of effort that you put in that might not yield anything, but when you're looking around trying to build relationships and find or create new clients, it's not a bad use of your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Melissa said helpful. Awesome. Awesome possums. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's all I had to cover. And if we don't have any more questions, then I think we're good to go. How do you feel, Trey?
Yeah, feels good. Unless anyone else has any other questions, we'll just close it up and it'll be available later on.
Awesome. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Well, enjoy Mickey Midwest. Thanks for hanging out. Great to meet you all. I would love to connect outside of this. But for now, have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, guys.